The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM. Ya hala, ya hala, ya hala, ya hala, ya hala.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and you're listening to Sisters Speak on Inspire 105.1 FM, and you're here with me today, Faiza,
Zarish,
and me, Mariam.
And today we're going to be talking about a very controversial topic of honour or shame, or as some would say, izzat, in terms of culture, yeah. So today, not only will we be discussing that, but also in terms of culture, you know, the whole idea of what will people say, that common phrase I'm sure loads of people have heard. That is our main topic of discussion today. And remember, you can all get involved by texting us on 07779 481822. You can text or WhatsApp on that number, or you can even call in on 01582 481822, or you can join us on our Facebook live stream as well and comment there your views and opinions, and we'll be reading that out too. So before we get into it, Mariam, would you like to tell us what our show is about?
So our show is a platform for Muslim girls to voice their own opinions on current events and issues, and even form discussions on general topics such as religion, culture, politics and social media. We want to know all opinions and views are our own, and we respect all other opposing views.
Thank you for that. So as said before, our topic of discussion today is what will people say in terms of shame, honour and that in the community. So first of all, we do this thing on our show every single week, Thought of the Week, and this is just something we've learned, something that's beneficial to listeners, something that we should just, a reminder to ourselves first and foremost. So Zarish, do you want to go first? What is your thought for this week?
Okay, there's this quote that I read. I don't memorise it, so I've got it in front of me. I'm going to read it out. What it is, it's always end the day with a positive thought. No matter how things were, tomorrow's a fresh opportunity to make it better. Thought of the week, to summarise, is no matter how bad your day's been, your week has been, you feel heartless, heartbroken, or really upset, just remember, just say Alhamdulillah, because you can breathe, you can talk, you've got all the senses, you've got things that people don't have, and there are other people that are in much worse state than you are. So just say Alhamdulillah. Tomorrow is going to be a fresh day. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, and just be thankful for everything that you have.
Thank you.
That's really good. I read a quote quite similar to yours, actually, that if the people that are most successful are the most grateful, because they see everything in a positive way. They don't focus on what they don't have. They focus on what they do have, and they utilize their resources, and that way they go more far. So I definitely agree with you that you should be grateful. And if you think every single day one thing that you're grateful for, it'll become a lifestyle, and it'll become your mentality, and small things that come your way or little hurdles won't detract you from the bigger picture, and it won't make you feel like demotivated or demoralized, because you have so many things to be grateful for, and one little thing won't just make you feel down. My thought of the week banks off that. So my thought of the week is living each day as, okay, it might sound a bit abstract, but living each day as it is. So, sometimes it's so easy to live in the future and focus on the plans, or try to compare yourself to other people who are achieving X, Y and Z, and you forget to live in the present, and that can happen especially when you want to pursue a career, or you have a massive ambition. It's really easy to be sucked into this cycle of thinking, why am I not there yet? But you need to think about maybe like 1 year ago, everything that you dreamed and hoped for, you've got that now. So for example, say if you wanted a job, 1 year ago you were so desperate for that job, and now you're in that job, and again you're unhappy because
I'm tired, and
so, and you just want something new. So I guess you just again, as Zarish said, that live every single day as it is, and be grateful for it, and just be content.
Yeah, thank your blessings, because, it makes you a happier person as well. If every day you just think, even if you set aside 5 minutes of the day saying, thank you, God, for giving me this, giving me that. It will make you a happier person, because if you ever do feel down, you then think about that 5 minute you had the day in the morning, and you just think, well, I've got this, I've got that, why am I being so ungrateful? Everything happens for a reason anyways, whether it's for the good or for the bad. Allah always makes decisions in your life, but trust me, he's got a plan. So just thank your blessings.
True that. I think both of yours are like very motivational. My one might be a little bit on the dismal side. So mine
Mixture.
is just it's just a bit, sometimes, life kind of gets to you, or something may get to you, might just bring you down a little bit. But I think sometimes you should like cut yourself a little bit of slack, maybe take a little bit of time to yourself, just reflect on everything. It's good to take a break. Sometimes loads of things can become overwhelming, whether it is to do with family or to do with, other domestic things, or even work or uni or school, college, whatever. Anything that's going on with your life, sometimes it can get quite overwhelming, and it's just a bit like, how am I supposed to deal with all of this kind of thing? So sometimes it's good just have a little break, take a little bit of time to yourself. It's good to have, self-care. I think it's really important, and I don't think that a lot of people have that. They do that. They don't take the time out for themselves every once in a while. You're always doing things. You come home from work, you've got this to do, or that to do on the weekend, when the only 2 days you have off is just like things you couldn't do during the week. You're trying to squeeze that all in, and then other things, like, they just come up as well. So sometimes it's good, just take a little bit of time out to yourself. Yeah. Self-care is important. Your mental health is important too, especially when things become overwhelming. Like, don't ever, like, just keep going, as in...
You'll burn out.
Yeah. And I agree with you, because the other day you said to me, just put your pajamas on, watch a chick flick and put a face mask on. And trust me, guys, I have not put a face mask on, put my head down and just, relax. I haven't done that in a very long time. I've been studying, working constantly, but it felt so good. And I actually purchased 3 face masks. And do you know what I'm going to do today after this radio show? I'm going to go home and put a face mask on.
Because sometimes you need it.
You need self-care,
Like stress relief.
Yeah.
Because there's so much going on already, and sometimes, you need that break. You can't do... Okay, that sounds a little bit, I don't know, demotivating, but you can't do everything all at once. Take each thing step by step and deal with it, task by task, day by day. You can't do everything at once. It's actually impossible, but you can end up doing everything each stage at a time. And, try and just take a break sometimes. You definitely need it. To you who's listening to this, put a face mask on, or go for a walk, watch a movie, spend time with family. Just take a little bit of time to yourself, because, life's too short to be stressing over so many things that probably, in the future might not even be relevant.
Yeah.
What I was thinking, like, while Faiza was talking, I was thinking about mothers and how they at service to everyone, their children, their responsibility as a wife, then they have work commitments. And now I think I was listening to some podcast recently saying that how there's expectation of women to be an employee and have those expectations to, fulfill all the demands. And, work life is demanding, and it can be very stressful. And it can be overwhelming, and you take that home. So a woman has all that stress, and then she is expected to be the homekeeper as well.
She's supposed to cook and clean as soon as she comes home, get
and be a mother,
ready.
Listen to the kids, see if they're going through any problems. I mean, I come back from work. I come back from work, and I just literally just talk to my mum about the whole day, and then she'd give me advice. I would never listen to that advice, but it's good to hear.
I hope she's not listening.
She knows I don't. She's like, I don't know why you ask me when you're not going to listen. But every problem I have, I tell her about it, and then she gives me advice, and then don't really listen.
And then she just puts a face mask on and then goes to bed.
Yeah.
No, but then I think about it, and it's like you expect women to be a working woman, and then you expect her to be a mother and a wife responsibilities as if she's not working. So I think women are like this message should go definitely to women that, you know, we stretch ourselves so much. You have to cut yourself slack, and it's not being selfish, and it's not being, you shouldn't feel guilty for it. You're a human being, and Allah created us as human being. And I think on the back of that as well, the people that we surround ourselves with. So if we're a daughter, maybe even I'm talking to myself, like we should appreciate our mothers a little bit more. We should help out a little bit. Like I'm definitely guilty of it. I'll say that with the whole hands up. You have to like appreciate what they do, because that's why they say that underneath the mother's feet is Jannah, because it's like Jannah is not easy to get, and this is the reason why they do so much. They're out of service. And I think, you know, it's really important to, even if you're a man and you have and you see your sister and you see your wife or you see your mother doing all of this, it's your responsibility to, you know, help out as well. I think it's just, when you have a family network, it's about helping each other. Of course, everyone has different roles, but it's a collective thing, it's a collaborative thing, and I think we should all look after each other. Look after yourself and look after each other.
Exactly. Self-care is very important.
I think everyone's going to go super drugs now and get face masks.
Like, it can be different forms.
Definitely.
Aside from face masks. Like, you know, it should just be to go for a walk.
Or go to gym or something.
Time with family. Yeah, exactly. Go to the gym, go to a spa, I don't know. Just something.
Yeah, go to a spa, that's nice. Go for a nice sauna.
Yeah, like anything in the form of self-care is sometimes what everyone once in a while needs.
Yeah.
That form of stress relief as well. Remember, you know, things can get overwhelming, and don't ever feel guilty about it, that you're not doing this and this and this because you have other responsibilities. You know, like Mariam, you said, like, don't stretch yourself out like so much, because we're already like that. We all have so many different responsibilities, whether it's, you know, work-wise, home-wise, anything else-wise. You know, self-care is key.
And I feel like the only way you can do self-care is by prioritizing what needs to be done. We're not saying that, you know, neglect your priorities or neglect your responsibilities, but prioritize them. You know, your family commitments are a priority, and that's your responsibility. But other things that can be pushed back, you push them back, and you look after yourself, because, you know, if you want to be successful and you want to be the best wife or the best husband, or you want to be the best employee, you have to have a stable mental, you know, capacity to do that. And the only way you could do that is look after yourself, you know. And, you know, from a religious perspective, you know, Allah doesn't say to you to, you know, burn yourself out. He says take 2 steps back and look after yourself. You know, your body is your amana. It's something that it's a loan. You give your body back to God. How you look after your body and how you look after your mental health, that's a religious duty on you as well.
Exactly. So, yeah, look after yourself, mental health wise, physically as well. Self-care, key.
I feel like social media can have an aspect to it as well. You can cut out social media.
Yeah,
because,
maybe cut certain things out of your life might help.
Yeah, because some things are so unnecessary in our lives, and it takes so much focus. And perhaps when we detox and we realize actually this has so much impact on us.
True.
And, you know, I feel like even with friendships, I would say in this, you know, we have so much access to information. We see so many people every single day, and, you know, without knowing, that does influence us. And, you know, sometimes we might feel that obligation or that feeling that we must maintain every single relationship, but actually, you know, not everyone is entitled to you. And I feel like we have to recognize that. Don't feel bad that, you know, you're not there for every single person. You're just one human being. I feel that it's really important to look after yourself and I'm not saying to be rude and, you know, neglect, you know, people that are close to you, or, you know, be rude. And if someone tries to talk to you and you just be rude to them, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there's no need to please everyone. I think that comes down to that as well. Just look after yourself, and, you know your capacity, and don't overwork yourself, because at the end of the day, that's going to affect your mental health, and it's going to affect the way you carry yourself and your happiness.
That's true.
True.
Anyone else want to add anything before we move on?
No, I think we should move on now.
So our main topic today is, what will people say? So this is mainly in relation to honor, in relation to the aspect of shame that is very controversial, but it's actually quite common in our culture. So we'll be discussing that. Remember, if you want to join in on our discussion, please do text or WhatsApp in on 07779 481 And we also have our Facebook live stream. Do you want to wave, guys? So you can comment on that too. Let us know your thoughts, because it's actually an interesting topic. So first question, define honor in terms of culture. How would you define it? Or how would you define the term, what will people say?
What will people say?
Like, what do you think of it as?
Well, when I think about what will people say, I think of my parents. Obviously, you, not even as a Muslim person, but as an Asian person, you always have that feeling, oh, if I do this, if I do that, what will people say? You'd always be bounded by other people's thoughts. So I'll give you an example. I'm actually from, well, I don't actually want to say where I'm from, but I'm not from Luton. And where I'm from, it's, if you go there, there's literally no Asians. I'm not even kidding with you. There's no Asians.
Yeah.
And I've been brought up there. I've born there. I went to school there. I went to college there. Everything. And then all of a sudden I come to Luton, which is majority Pakistanis or Indians or Asians in, you know. And when I came here, I was obviously not like the typical very modestly dressing, in the sense that, you know, I would wear tight jeans or whatever, or not wear a headscarf or anything like that. And I got judged really badly. And very quickly I realised what will, you know, I went home and I said to my parents, oh, people are making this comment about me and this comment, and I don't know what people will say. I'm going to change myself. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start doing that. And then my parents were like in the agreement that, yeah, okay, fine, that's good. Dress differently if you want to, just so you don't want to be talked about. But then why should I have to change myself? I've been brought up like that. I don't feel like I dress inappropriately, but maybe people, what will they say, do? I don't know how to explain it.
No, I understand.
Do you know what I mean?
If you're going to change, you change for yourself and for God.
Not because
Another people, not because of people. That shouldn't be the influencing factor.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. So when I think of what will people say, I just think of typical mindset with typical thoughts.
So just typical.
Typical.
Okay.
Yes.
Mariam?
I'm not in a great mood today.
What was the question again?
Oh, God. What do you think, your thought, your opinion on when you hear what will people say? How would you see it?
I think it's societal pressure on how one person acts or behaves and how that will be received by other people. And I think that interlinks with reputation. I think what people say is interchangeable with reputation, because you'll only care what people will say if you think you have a reputation that you need to maintain, and you're scared that it's going to be redundant because, you know, you're acting a certain way. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you think it's like a judgmental thing? Or
yeah, I think it is a judgmental force that influences people. So, for example, if your child, we were talking about this before the show, if your child wants to marry outside culture, the first thing that will come to in Asian cultural mind is, what will people say?
Yeah.
Because they will say, well, why, you know, that it's not nice to say, but, you know, some thought process will be like, you know, you haven't raised your child. You know, the question fingers on the parents, like, you haven't raised your child to, you know, stay within the same culture, or, you know, like, how can you like ruin our reputation like that? All these like negative forces come.
So would you say this whole what will people say is mainly to do with reputation? It's to do with the shame factor?
I think it's a shame factor, because you wouldn't care about what will people say unless you're scared that it's going to tarnish you in some shape or form.
Yeah,
that's very true. I think someone, Shazia Afzal, on our Facebook live stream, Assalamu alaikum, she said honor is basically being obedient. So being obedient equals honor. Thoughts?
Thank you for your message.
Yeah.
Thank you for your message. That's quite interesting and quite fascinating how she's perceived honor to be obedient. I hope she elaborates, because I'm not quite...
Yeah, I would like a bit of elaboration on that. Is there anything else said after that?
No, not at the moment. But please do let us know your thoughts. Comment on our Facebook live stream, or even text WhatsApp 07779 481822 for your thoughts. But anyways, continuing on the discussion, so it's mainly to do with that fear that something's going to be tarnished, whether it could be the reputation, whether it could be the family name maybe. So is it just that fear that, oh my gosh, people are going to say something if I do so and so?
Yeah, because, if you
But
were
why do we have that?
if you are God conscious, and so long as you're doing things in the fold of Islam, it doesn't matter what people say, regardless of what you do.
But why is that
Because-
controversial statement? Why is that always?
Because that's the driving force, and you have to understand, where does that derive from. It comes from a culture where, for example, in our countries, right, everyone is the same. Like, I'm not trying to generalize everyone, but for example, say if you're from Bangladesh or Pakistan, most people, the majority are Muslims, and the majority have the same sort of mentality. Obviously there's minute differences, but then you compare that to Britain, where it's multicultural, it's very, it's not, not even regarding to westernization, I'm talking about diversity. So for example, there's 3 people in this room from 3 different perspectives and 3 cultural backgrounds, and therefore we have 3 different opinions. Whereas when you're in the same kind of society, or the same kind of thinking, so for example, if you're raised in a country where everyone thinks the same in terms of what will people say, or cultural thinking, then of course you're going to be part of that cycle. You're going to be part of that loop. So for that, in that case, it's when you have that expectation where you should follow this trajectory, like you should go to university, you should not do this, you should not do this, like there's red lines that you should not cross. And even if it's actually Islamically permissible, for example, marrying outside your culture, then it will be talked about, because it's something it's outlandish, so of course people will talk about it. Whereas if you're from a culturally diverse place, and you adopt more I wouldn't even add religion to this, but if you're more open-minded, and you experience different cultures and backgrounds, and you don't have any reservations because you understand it, I think a lot of it comes from lack of education, because you haven't seen something new. It's all about uncertainty. So if you don't know something, then of course you're going to have fear of it. So if you're not following the trajectory that Asian culture enforces, of course other people will be like, how can your daughter do that?
Someone who's lived here for, I don't know, majority of their life.
So majority of their lives, that comes from internalized values of, for example, we have culture, right? We're sitting here, we all like biryani. Where does that come from? We all have differences, but we all love biryani. Where does that come from? Because that's how our roots come from. So of course, wherever our parents or our grandparents they've been raised, and they bring from our countries, of course that's going to be internalized with the children. But the children, obviously, when you're raised here, then you will obviously interrogate it, and you will question it, and you will think differently, because you're not living in a society where everyone is the same. You're living in a society where there are differences, and in theory, I believe that's way better, because Islamically, for me personally, I feel that you become more open-minded, and you become more appreciative of other people, and more respectful. In that sense. So I think that's where I've digressed, but
but it is true what you're saying, though, because it's very, unfortunately, it's actually kind of sad to say, because this mindset, no matter how many generations pass down, I feel like it'll always stick. There's no way of, it just seems like there's no way of getting out of it. You could do one thing, there will be someone in that crowd that will say, but what will people say then if you do that kind of thing? Or that mentality might just hit you somewhere at the back of your head, probably whispering to you, if you do this, what are people going to say?
That's definitely true. And I feel like, I think as the young generation, who obviously we find that very wrong, I think we should be the one to tackle that. And if someone says, what will people say, then we respond to that. What does it matter? It's not about what will people say, it's about, are you being a good person, and are you doing anything morally wrong, are you doing anything religiously wrong? That's what it boils to. You're not going to take people to your grave, or you're not going to take people's opinions to their grave. You're going on your own, and people forget that.
So in certain situations, why does it matter? But still, it's that
it's that external force, definitely, of course.
And
I'm
that
sure
fear as well, that my
it's because we don't have the ability to speak up against it. It's one person against 100.
It's also the pride thing as well.
Definitely the pride.
I think in our culture, pride is a very out there thing, and a lot of people have that pride, we're better than so and so, and it's actually ridiculous to say, but it's true. It's common, the pride thing, the honor, the shame. And what makes it worse, in my opinion, is that it's always the honor and the shame that's on the woman. So never, if the boy does so and so, it will be bad for a little while, but it will go away. But with the woman, it's it's always
stained,
going to be
For
so
life.
like she does one thing
And
then
she'll
the
be
whole-
taunted for it for the rest of her
For the
life.
rest
And
of
for
her
a man,
life.
he does something wrong, he grows a beard, mashallah, he's fine.
It's kind of sad because it sticks with the woman more and more pressures on her. All eyes will always be on her because of that reputation, the honor thing, the shame thing. But why?
Yeah.
Why is it always on the woman?
I feel like people will only talk if you give them a chance to. If you don't entertain it, and if you don't, give them that value of what they're saying, then it will die out. They will not speak
Yeah.
about you. So if you're vocal enough, well, actually, what am I doing wrong? If you question them back, they won't have an answer. What will they respond with?
Yeah.
That society said this, but actually we're Muslims, and actually we all are God conscious. What response will they have? It's not justified, and I think that it's our responsibility to interrogate that and be vocal about it. If we see someone making a mistake and she's being pushed because of what will people say, it's our responsibility to save her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
After the break, we'll be discussing more. I think we'll go into more detail, especially to do with, for example, an example of the honor thing, to do with like honor killings, for example. Not too much into detail, but just because there's that underlying thing of what will people think. We'll also talk more about the mentality of it in terms of our households, job roles, and diversity as well. So please join us after the break. It'll only be a couple of minutes. See you soon, inshallah.
You're listening to an Inspire FM podcast, making available our popular programs from our daily broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and welcome back to Sisters Speak on Inspire 105.1 FM. And just before the break, we were discussing honor, the whole ideology or the phrase of what will people think. So you're here only with me, Faiza, and then you're here with Mariam and Zarish as well. So remember, you can join in on our discussion on our Facebook Live. Wanna wave, guys? Or you can text in on 07779 481822, or you can phone us 01582 481822 with your comments and views and opinions on our topic today. So just before the break, I think we were just kind of summarizing this whole idea of what will people say, what we think of it and how we kind of see it. And I think we can all agree that it's just this ideology of, about reputation. It's about the shame and the, something being tarnished. So aside from that, just before the break, I asked you a question of whether you think it's more on the women or the men. What would you say? Honor and shame.
In cultural perspective, I think it's more on women.
Yeah.
It
I
sticks
agree.
more with the women than it
Right,
does
of
with
course.
Yeah.
I believe so.
We're
What do
all
you think, Faisal? What do you think?
getting triggered.
What do you think, Faisal? What do you think?
I think it is on the women.
I definitely think it. And I think it comes from men. That pressure comes from men, and that's why it's imposed on the women.
But then it also comes from women on women as well.
Yes,
I think the
that's-
shaming.
The shaming does,
The
yes.
shaming,
yes,
which is
of
kind
course.
of common as well, unfortunately. But it is actually quite common, women shaming other women to do with this whole what will people say? Oh, what will people say
About
that
your
you're not
daughter,
married
yeah,
yet?
yeah.
Or what will people say that, you're not practicing properly, or you're not dressed a certain way, or you're why are you doing this job for, or going into a certain career for? People are going to say this, people are going to say that kind of thing.
I think that's because of peer pressure amongst the women. Like, my daughter's doing this, why is your daughter not doing that? That is peer pressure.
So where does the shame aspect come in then?
The shame aspect comes in because your daughter is not following the trajectory that society or Asian culture has enforced.
So it's not more society, it's more the Asian culture.
Definitely. And I think society does have a external force as well, because again, at the end of the day, what makes a society is people, and people have these very rigid expectations of, like, in terms of gender roles. So there's like a public sphere and there's a private sphere, and there's women are expected to maintain the household, and then in the public sphere she's given roles, and for example you would hardly see any women in the CEO kind of field. Like, you won't see them at the top because they're more empathetic, so they will be mentors or things like that. I'm just relating to my own university. Like, you won't see a woman being, obviously there's a pay gap. It's still happening today.
Yeah. Of course, it's a big issue even now.
Because people still don't have that to see women equal. And equity and what's the word? Being equal, it doesn't mean like we'd have, for example, a male's makeup. This is my own opinion. A male's makeup is not the same as a woman's makeup. So therefore, for example, if they, try to do something in terms of physical strength, it's going to be different.
Of course, it's going to be different.
Of course, it's going to be different. And we're not striving to be the same in terms of that.
And we're not saying that we want exactly the same roles. I mean, for example, women give birth, what, men too?
No, we're saying that, women have different needs and men have different needs, and, they should be fulfilled equally. Yeah. They should be given respect and value equally. And women and men are designed a different way. Even the emotional makeup is different, and therefore the way they approach things will be different. That's what equity is. That's what I believe, that things are not. That's why there's such there's a big gap between women and men. It's because women are boxed into this expectation that they should fulfill this, and where does that derive from? That derives from patriarchy. And so it's men enforcing these kind of cultural expectations when they themselves have never been the ones to maintain that. So it could be, for example, like, this is my own opinion, like it's like a politician saying that this is the minimum wage, but they've never had a minimum wage. So how can they resonate with the public? That sort of thing. So how can a man enforce the expectation of women, but they've never experienced it?
That's very interesting.
That's what
you raised quite a few good points there, though.
What do you think?
No, especially because of the whole, like, if we're talking in terms of this honor and shame and things, it is that equalness as well. Now, where I'm coming from, I'm talking about the way, for example, like, as unfortunate as it sounds, but women get shamed way more than men. But why? Because just the fact that they're women, and they'll do the same thing, but they'll be more shamed for it because they're a woman. For example, and I just want to brush on this topic only because it's a very controversial topic, and I think we need like a whole show for that topic. But honor killings, okay? And as unfortunate as it sounds, it's common.
Very.
It's more of like a taboo topic. People don't talk about it, but I'm just going to address one thing, and that's the whole honor killings. The reason for it, in your opinion, is what?
It's absolutely crazy. I don't even have words to express that. I can't believe it's
breaks down to because of two people fell in love, they want to get married. Parents find out.
Yeah, and it could also be that I'm obviously not going to name who, but there was this woman in Pakistan. She came from a very poor family. I'm sure everyone knows who I'm talking about. She came from a very poor family, and she decided she wanted to become an actress. So she went in the business world and modeling world and everything. She became very famous. She paid for her parents' expenses, paid for her brother's school, paid for her sisters to get married. She herself got really rich, and at one point they didn't even have any money to eat food. She became very famous. Unfortunately, she was a Muslim woman, and she was posting some controversial stuff online, and her own brother, who she did so much for, killed her.
Yeah.
Her own brother.
We did a show on this.
Oh, yes. I'm just sorry.
So honor killing comes from, again, this is honor killing. He killed her because he was like, she's doing all of these things. People are saying this, but why is he not taking into consideration? It's because of her, they finally got food on the table. Her parents don't have to, her 80-year-old father doesn't have to do labour anymore. They have somewhere to live. So this kind of honor killing really annoys me. He did not appreciate what his sister did for the family home, what he should have done as deemed by the Asian society that the man is the breadwinner of the family home. She did that, and he couldn't take it when people talk.
Yeah.
And, the girl was so talented, so beautiful, so hardworking, and unfortunately she was killed because of what people thought.
True that. And then the other form of honor killing is the whole thing like I was saying before, for example, people falling in love, choosing that they want to get married to people who, for example, the family won't agree with. And then it ends up being, the alternative would be the forced marriage thing, which ends up, not in all cases, but some ends up leading to the whole honor killing because so and so won't want to marry a certain person, but it's the woman who gets killed,
And there's no responsibility taken in that.
Exactly.
No one
and
realized.
It will just be the blame will just be put onto the woman. The shame will just be put onto the woman,
and not the man that she was dating or she was with, or
Yeah. And we're not saying who's in the wrong here, but everything. Why is it always pinpointed on? Why is the woman always victimized in these cases when it comes to honor and shame? Why is it always on the woman to carry the whole family name if she wants to, for example, pursue a certain career? Why is there this whole ideology of,
I know.
people are going to say this, so you can't go into that career. Maybe go into this. This is more better for you. And if you don't, then, people are going to be saying, why is she doing that career for so-and-so, These kinds of comments. And it's underlying issues as well, like this, don't be friends with this person because of their associations with this.
Or if you hang around with a certain person, I'm just giving an example. If you hang around with a person that drinks, smokes, or whatever, you're assumed to be doing the same just because you're with that kind of group. But why... two friends can be completely different people, but they just get along. That doesn't mean just because she's hanging around with I'm just giving an example, a white man, she's people automatically think bad, and I think that's completely wrong.
Another thing which is such a common stereotype is this whole, for example, okay, this is an example, very controversial, but women and men speaking, okay? This is one thing that's very controversial in terms of, women shouldn't speak to men because so-and-so in our culture, okay? What about in work, when you're working, when you're at school, lectures, anything like that? You're just not supposed to speak to men?
Or when you're getting taught by a lecturer, you're not supposed to ask any questions,
There's a little bit of that underlying issue. If, for example, if others was seeing you speak to the opposite gender.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way you're in a professional setting, and of course you have to speak to your colleagues. It's more disrespect that you don't know it's your lack of communication skills that you do not know how to speak to the other gender with modesty or respect.
Even if it's not in a professional setting, even in a social setting.
Yeah, so everyone knows that they have their own barriers. It's you can't just go and look at someone. See if you see a guy and a girl speaking, you can't just go assume what's going on. What is that? That's just absolutely ridiculous.
It's ridiculous because there's a lot of cultural stigma that surrounds it.
And I think if you know yourself,
there's the assumptions that so-and-so
you're supposed to defend. You're supposed to, if you see someone's doing something, you're supposed to give them 80 excuses or I don't know the number. You're supposed to make as many excuses up to defend their brother, and instead what we're doing, we're spewing hate and we're spewing rumors about people. But then we need to look closely, where is this coming from? Is it because we have the inability to speak to each other with respect and modesty? I'm not encouraging to go speak unnecessarily.
Yeah.
We're not saying that, but we're saying when necessary, with in line being modest, and you know yourself. Why would you? It's that what would people say? Why are you speaking to that person? It's nothing to do with that person.
On our Facebook Live, we just got a comment from Shazia Afzal. She's the one who did comment before. She said, "We live in a society where we do care what others may say. Even though it is something we shouldn't worry about, it will leave a trace of not fitting in and being accepted. We care and respect our elders and do not wish to see them hurt. It is about educating and raising awareness, but also do not wish to disrespect our elders. Sometimes stepping out of the circle to make a change is seen as a shame on the family."
Yes, so I agree with that, but then there's a line. So if you have that again, as I said before, so our no one's saying to disrespect your elders, of course, but have that conversation with them, have that dialogue. Ease the anxiety. They have anxiety because it's uncertain. They don't know the consequences of what you're doing, and they think that it'll cause you more harm. For them, staying within that circle or staying within that mentality kept them safe. So for you to step outside, they will think it'll be unsafe for you. So have that conversation, have that dialogue, and show them that it's okay. take them along the way, because they, of course, at the end of the day, our elders want us to be in the best position, and they want us to be safe, and they want us to be respected. But if you don't have that courtesy or extend your hand to make them see or understand where you're coming from, then of course they're going to have that fear. But that fear comes from, out of love for you.
True.
Yeah. I think we mentioned in the last show, communication is key. Always communicate, and and then think whatever you do, it will obviously be, if you communicate it properly, then that's the way forward.
But what if it's very hard to? Because of their mindset, they won't change. Because it's quite common.
Yeah.
A lot of the elder generations, they won't, they'll stick to the roots completely.
So you'll have to, in that case, I would say choose your battles. There's some things that are worth fighting for, and there's some things that they're not worth fighting.
And then in the end, show them. Remember, we said it in the last show. Show them what you can do, and then once you've done it, that they will later realise, and they'll be proud of you. As long as you're motivated, ambitious, then once you've achieved what you wanted to, then not even your parents, the elders will realise she was right. But do try and have that communication first.
True that. Do you think there are certain stigmas in our culture, for example, where there is shame towards certain aspects of women? For example, just an example, there's the stigma with, women who are married and of age but without children. There's stigmas of single mothers, divorcees, widows, women who are just working and they haven't got married yet, women who shouldn't pursue education.
Yeah.
Stigmas like that. How can we tackle the what will people say with that as women ourselves?
An example of that could be when, for example, if a woman is career orientated and she's working, she's doing really good in her professional life, but say for instance she's 28, 29, she's not married yet, people will obviously say, oh, you're getting too old, you're not going to find a good rishta for yourself, you're not going to be able to find good man to get married to, you're not going to have kids on time, or you may later not be able to conceive. How to overcome that is keep doing what you're doing good at, keep being a professional, and when the time's right, just say to them, Allah has written my destiny. If I'm meant to get married, I will get married. If I'm meant to have kids, I will have kids. Just ignore them. I said that last time as well. As long as you're doing what you feel like is right, morally right, like you said, religiously right, then people's opinions should not matter.
Yeah.
What people will say does not matter.
But it's so true though that it will always stick though.
There
will always be, our society is like that. We have this whole ideology that that you do eventually care at what other people say. As I think, in my own personal opinion, no matter how much we say, we shouldn't care so and so, or we shouldn't look to what other people think, we should only do what's right for ourselves, etc. There will always be that thought or those little fragments of we do care what other people say, we do care what other people think.
Definitely, and I think the way to tackle that is, we can't sit here and discuss how we will revolutionize, the mentality. Yeah. But I think
we're going to skip it away.
No, but I think it starts at home. There's the saying, charity starts at home, and I guess we can apply that. Start with your family. If you can help your family and educate your family in terms of, again, as Zarish and I have mentioned, that if you're doing something and you're God conscious about it and there's nothing wrong with it, then just tackling your own family members. If every single person, aims and strives to, educate their family, then that's like the whole of society, because each, one person can't do everything, but everybody can do something. And I think that's the mentality we need to have. We're not saying to go out, and do protests or whatever. We're saying start at home. Discuss with your parents, discuss with the grandparents, or within your own circle, what kind of mentality, where is that coming from, and tackle that first.
Yeah. Do you feel as if do you find that Muslim women experience a sexualized body shame? Being body shamed?
I don't know if I have any opinions on that.
In terms of the way you look, in terms of your dress, in terms of your hijab, in terms of makeup, in terms of how your body shape.
Yeah, I definitely think that, especially in terms of weight, and I think this is something that deserves another show. So the first thing, our Asian aunties, much love to the Asian aunties, but the first thing they said, oh, you've gained weight, oh, you've lost weight.
Yeah.
So, it's always something that they always comment on, the way you look.
And then comes what will people say if you go to a certain place looking like that?
Definitely.
It's like the cherry on top.
Oh, why are you wearing too much makeup? Who are you trying to impress?
Yeah.
Oh,
But these things we do for ourselves.
yeah, I mean, self-love, remember? That's what we were talking about.
1 second. Developing Creative Education CIC commented, people live one life. A good piece of advice I received once was that people should not allow other people's problems about how they think of you should become yours. If you're a good person, what does it matter? If other people have a problem with how someone lives a life in a free country, then maybe they have the problem.
Perfectly well said.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well put together as well.
Yeah, I agree.
That definitely hits the nail on the head.
Yeah.
But I still think there's always going to be the
There's always going to be an external force, of course, it's going to come to your mind. But the thing is how you react. It's how you react to it and how you respond to it and how you approach systematically of what you want to do. So of course, that's going to be internalized thoughts, and of course, it's going to be external force. But it's how you respond to that, and that's what the focus should be.
Sergio Khan said, Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam.
Islam.
He said, unfortunately, our cultures get in the way. The reality is that women are an integral part of both Islam and Britain alike. The Quran regards men and women as equals in the sight of God. True.
Exactly. So whether in the sight of God, so when a man makes a mistake and a woman makes a mistake, we're looked at as human beings. They're not even looked at for their gender. They're looked at for their mistake. And so if Allah opens that up and says that as long as you have air in your lungs, you can seek forgiveness, gender's out of the question.
Exactly. We look towards our deeds, our intentions, not towards our gender, not towards how we look. And unfortunately, in our society, it's the in our culture actually, it's the gender, it's the what we do, and if we do one thing, what consequences it's going to have on apparently everyone else.
Again, it's as you said, it's about intention. So why does, I always think this is so mind-blowing personally for me, is why does Allah not count our deeds? Why does He weigh it? Because He looks at intention and looks at sincerity, and that makes Islam so individualized. So my capacity to do good deeds and your capacity to do good deeds are completely different, but Allah looks at your intention and your sincerity, and He looks at my intention and my sincerity. So you could be, fulfilling all the rights, or you could be doing, extra amount of deeds, and I don't have that capacity to do so, but I avoid sin, or I try my best to be a good person. In the eyes of Allah is how much effort and sincerity you put into that, and I think that's the most beautiful thing. There's no one checkbox thing in religion.
Exactly.
It's very individualized, and it's all about your personal relationship with God.
Yeah.
And your personal journey. It's not one straight journey. Not everyone's on the same road, and everyone has the same destination. But Allah's created that.
Exactly. And don't worry about what other people are doing in their journey, and whether or not you should be doing that. But focus on your own. Focus on your own deeds. Remember, it doesn't matter, men or women. Whether it's gender, whether it's how you look, everything. It shouldn't matter. But sometimes it does get to you. But just I feel like you should ignore that voice. Ignore that societal pressure of, what will people think.
There's something that I want to touch upon. Like, for example, when you're a man and you have daughters, or if you're a brother and you don't allow your sister or your daughter to do something, ask yourself, is this because of culture, or is she doing something religiously right, or is she doing something morally right? If she is, who am I? I'm competing with God's position, because I'm not allowing my child to do that. So for example, marrying outside of culture, I'm not allowing my child to marry outside of culture because of my culture, because of I put culture before religion. You have to ask the question, is this my pride, or is this, religious? Is this the religious force that's stopping you? And I think if you think about it that way, who are you competing with? You're competing with God. You are competing with God, and you have to realize that.
Yeah, our religion doesn't teach, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be marrying outside your culture. When in fact, there's only 4 things you look to when you're getting married, and culture is not it. But unfortunately, our society culture.
And the way you perceive Islam is that are you mixing culture with religion? Oh, religion says this, but are you actually just taking fragments of religion to express your culture? You have to have this thought process, and you have to be strong enough to divide culture and religion. It's so easy because, of course, with all due respect, it's because obviously when you're in a Muslim country and you've inherited culture and religion at the same time, it's very hard to distinguish it.
Exactly.
But when you're living in a place where you have access to research, you have access to data, and you access to resources, the way you have been brought up is not going to be the same as the way your children have been brought up, and their capacities is going to be different to your capacities. And I'm not saying that some things, of course, parents, we can't see it, but parents will know that, and history repeats itself. So there's some things that you can't negotiate in, and I understand that. But more often than not, your child has been raised in a multicultural country, and they have a different perspective, and you have a different perspective.
And the generations are different as well.
And generation is different.
In each
and
generation.
each generation becomes, although it may not seem so, each generation becomes maturer because obviously the times
life lessons as well.
Yeah,
everything.
so you see children that are born and raised now, they understand things very, very quickly. Whereas before we were quite sheltered in that sense. Generations are moving extremely fast, and we have to accept that that's how things are going, and we're going to have to adopt and adapt to that.
And one thing to not let go of is the religion aspect in all of that, because if you let that go, then you're just falling into the trap of cultural needs, cultural societal expectations, and what they want from you, because that's literally, religion helps you in that. It moves you away from that.
The whole point of religion is you're a slave to God, so you're free from being slave to human. That's the whole point of it. And what happens when you're a slave of God? You're free from expectations of human beings which are unachievable. That's all it is. And it's about being the whole point of religion is to characterize yourself as a good person. It's a simple thing, but I think we just overcomplicate it with culture. And I'm not disrespecting culture, because there's many positive aspects to it too.
It's going to take a long time to move away from that what will other people say aspect, but eventually I really hope that we do move away. The what will people say, it will kind of be forgotten, hopefully.
And even if it's not, it's our responsibility to
move away from it.
To move away from
it.
Yeah.
But anyways, coming to the end of our show. Thank you for everyone who commented in. Thank you, girls, for your thoughts and opinions. Please do join us next week, inshallah. Thank you for listening to our show. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Why not tune in to our live stream at inspirefm.org and follow and subscribe to our social media platforms at Inspire FM Luton.